Well, I mean, this is the seventh exchange that we've done. So, and I've been coming to Denmark for about 15 years. So, but it's the largest group I've ever brought over at one time, as we had 28 students. So it's been really, it's always, people ask me, why do you come back every year? And besides me having friends and a connection here with Denmark, it's always exciting for me to see different people, or especially young people experiencing Denmark, which is very different in a lot of ways than the U.S., particularly because Denmark is such an older country with such a long, deep history, and is so much smaller. I mean, the Danish population is less than half the population of just New York City alone. So it's really interesting to see the cultural differences and to watch the young people I work with in New York experience it here. So yeah, so that's my favorite part, and also them getting to really experience Danish life. I mean, they're kind of like, this class is very special because they're kind of like sponges. They like to take everything in. They kind of soak up all the experiences. So some of the students, they loved Copenhagen because it was, a city but had very old elements in it. Whereas others really liked, I know that Aros was a big deal for them. They thought the museum was very special. It's very different than museums in the States. So yeah, and then others are loving Koldinghus because we don't have a castle like this with this kind of architectural wonder and special exhibits. So it varies on the particular student, but it's been a great experience overall. Yeah. It's very different because, in New York City, because it's such a fast, expensive city, and life is very busy. Many of our students, both their parents work, or they only live with one parent, and they work late. And a lot of our students are in a special program in school, so they have very challenging classes. So very often they stay late after school, or they're studying or doing projects, and they have other commitments, and parents get home late from work. So usually they have to find their own meals or cook their own dinners, or the parents will leave something for them. So it's unless it's a special holiday or event, they don't very often get to spend as much time as they want to sit down and have a dinner, a traditional dinner. It doesn't mean that the families are not close. It just means that maybe only on weekends or holidays do they have that time. So coming to Denmark, where that's kind of the normal thing you do until you leave and go to university, or you go away, and even then you find very often that families will still have at least dinner together. So I think that they thought that was not only strange but very cool, like something very that they definitely envied and really liked about Danish culture. There's a very strong emphasis on family. Wow, that's a hard question because I don't, it's one of those things that I don't know yet. Every group brings home different experiences. I think I'll start to find out more of that when we get home, and I'll get an idea. But I can see already, I can tell you in the past that the exchange has been very special. A lot of the students, even from the very first exchange 7 years ago, still are friends with the Danes that they stayed with. One of the young women that was on the original exchange from the first one 7 years ago, her and her Danish partner are still very close friends. They've traveled to Latin America. They've stayed back in Denmark and New York many times together. Last year's group, one of the students came and stayed with the family again just in January during her college break. So there's definitely a strong connection that will be there, and I think that many of our students who've been interested in international and global affairs, they kind of pursue more of that in the universities, in college, which I think is great because they start to see the world as a true international, global phenomenon, as opposed to, I think that even though we're New Yorkers, we're still part of the United States, and I think it's very easy to kind of just get very closed and locked in and see things only from an American perspective. So, like I said, because Denmark is such an old country and is also connected to other European cultures, I think it's a really nice way to start them looking outside of just the U.S. So I hope that that's kind of what a sense of that internationalism, as well as like a connection with a very interesting, unique culture, and Danish culture, even though it's a small country, it's a very strong culture, very defined, and I think that that's something that Americans remember a lot.
So Denmark is really some sort of a door to get into it.
It definitely it has been for a lot of our students. A lot of the students that went to Denmark over the last 3 to 5 years that stay in contact with me, not only do they stay in contact with their Danish partners, but they've told me a lot about choosing a different path in terms of their career and trying to make it tied to global affairs. So whether it be business or human rights law or studying culture or political science, they stay within an international kind of mindset. So I agree, like that's a good analogy, kind of seeing it as a door, because a trip is very unusual. When I tell people I'm bringing students to Denmark, a lot of my friends are like, well, why Denmark? What's so special? And it is special. It's just because it's unusual. I think the students really value it when they get back. They start to realize when they travel to other countries how different, even, many of the students are from other European countries, but they realize that Denmark is very unique and different and special. So.